Hey everyone, Ryan Kennedy here with the Start Guys, and we have another story here today coming your way. It's another Start story because we're on the project of finding 90 stories in 90 days of people who have found their big, who have identified that thing that's in their heart, their gut, their soul, and it is pulling them towards something more, towards something bigger, towards the person they were created to be. And so we're finding these stories, we're capturing these stories, and we want to share with you all these stories. And today I have with me here Jerry Herships. He is, first, he's a good friend of mine. He's also the founder of After Hours Denver. It's a faith community that has, you guys have been meeting all over Denver in bars for how many years now?
Going on 7 years.
7 years. They meet in bars, and their gig is to feed homeless people and to interact with the homeless and to provide relationship. And so we want to hear from Jerry today of what it was like to find your big and go after it, and tell us what that big was.
Right.
And let's start there and see where it goes.
Sure. I had another career until I was 40, and then left that, was in entertainment for all that time, and then felt pretty lost in my 40s, late 30s actually, and decided to go back to school, to go to seminary. And that was really hard. School's not my thing, but I had in your language, I had a bit, like I wanted to get out and try ministry, and I knew I had to do this. Sometimes you got to do stuff you don't want to do, and that was one of the things I didn't want to do, like at all. But I got through it, and they put me in a really big church, and that was great for a while. And then I realized that wasn't my big, that I really needed to engage more with folks beyond the walls of the church than just in the church. And I was a bartender for a long time, and so I knew that people have these spiritual conversations all the time, but weren't going to church. And so I thought, how can we connect with those folks? And that's how After Hours became a place where we went to bars, because I knew that community, I knew the language of that vibe. And the people that come to After Hours are folks that don't really have too bad a problem with God, but really struggle with the church. And they really want to jump in with both feet with the poor. And I never knew I had even a thing with the poor. I didn't know that was like part of my big until I started looking, going, no, you worked with shelters in Detroit, and then you worked with shelters in LA, then you worked with shelters in Orlando, and now suddenly the dots started to connect. And so we started being down in the park one day a week. And
so when you say the park, I know what you're talking about, but for our audience, describe what this park is like.
Right.
It's called Civic Center Park. It's right downtown Denver, Colfax and Broadway.
Yeah.
What's it like?
It's in the center of the city. It's right in front of the Capitol. And it's pretty much ground zero for the homeless community, and all the things that the city brings with it in the inner city environment, which meant prostitution and drugs and a lot of folks with active addictions, and I found myself being more comfortable there than Sunday morning in churches. I understand some people have a real aversion or maybe just fear of the poor or the homeless. It's just where, not just myself, but everybody afterwards, is where they come alive, is when they get to be in that environment. And so we started one day a week, and then actually you were one of the first people to come on board.
7 years ago.
Yeah, sitting at a pub, and you were like, well, I think we could do this. And then we had a second group, and then we've had a third group, and now we're there 7 days a week, 365. Doing anything. We'll feed 100 people in about 7 minutes. It goes pretty quick.
Did y'all hear that? 100 people in 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's insane. No one expected it. We certainly didn't. There was no way. We didn't know it.
So tell us a little bit about. So that's your big. That's the thing that you started. You went after it, and I know some of your story, but why is it? What was the why behind it? Why do you care about this?
Yeah, So my uncle was homeless, and that would be the easy answer, but he lived in another part of the country. I'd only met him a couple times. My wife thinks it has to do with justice. And not in the sort of churchy social justice way. She says you just can't stand when things aren't fair. And I think that's definitely part of the big is this idea of how can we help right this ship. And not, we're not changing homelessness. I've joked before with my wife, I come home, I'm like, now they've been fed, now it's over.
Yeah.
But the next day, it's still going to happen. But it is about giving people dignity. And for me, to see these guys that are just beaten down, just don't believe in themselves anymore, and just really feel like they believe the narrative that society has told them, that they're worthless. And to give them, the real why behind it is, and this happened when I did stand-up, and this happened when I bartended, and this happened when I was an entertainment manager, is in a nutshell, I want to create joy. And that's great if you're doing it on stage, telling jokes, but you can do that handing somebody a sandwich. You can do that. The number of lonely people in bars and the number of stories that I heard, and it felt as good connecting with somebody at a bar or connecting with the homeless guys as it did on stage at the Improv. It was still my big is creating that joy, one way or the other. It may take different shapes. 5 years from now, it may take a different shape, but that's going to be a core piece of it. That always will.
And I'm reminded of what you said with, you're with the guys who are, many of them in the park, homeless, addiction, they're at their bottom.
Yep.
They are, these are guys who are struggling, and you want to stand beside them.
That's right.
So I'm going to tell a little side story.
Okay, sure.
Because I just texted Jerry while I was at the gym. When was that? 2 or 3 days ago.
About that, yeah.
And I said, man, here I am at the gym. I'm working out. I was getting all teary-eyed.
Yeah.
Here's the irony. He's always in bars, but he's also the one in my first year of sobriety. Jerry was the one I called first.
Yeah.
When I realized I needed help.
About 4:30 in the morning.
4:30 in the morning, and I said, man, I need help. You were the first one I called.
Yeah.
And you put me in contact with a couple of guys that helped save my life.
Yeah.
But I received text after text that first year of my sobriety from Jerry, and they were simple, and they were so life-saving and life-giving to me. And they were simple texts of, how's the battle?
Yeah.
Are you staying connected?
Yeah.
And it was him checking in with me on that regular basis, and dude, that meant so much. It was
that's awesome
to have that, and someone who's not in recovery, someone who's not dealing with addiction, but you know enough about it, you've been around it enough.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome.
It is, so it's part of your story. You know what I mean? It's who you are.
You know what? I think somewhere we're told that we have to go to Haiti, to change the world. And that's nothing against Haiti. I think that work has to be done. But it can also be, I had a buddy whose wife just recently passed, and I got reminders on my phone. I've been touching base, and it takes that long to send a text, that long. And honestly, it doesn't take up a lot of my day, but obviously those texts meant a lot more than the amount of time that it took to send them. So I think that's a way that everybody can put more love in the world that way. That's a much easier, doing the work in Haiti matters, and cleaning up Katrina matters, and that stuff matters, but sometimes it's just small gestures that pay off big.
Talk to us a little bit about some of the fears and struggles you had to overcome. Because the dangers, we can talk about these cool things that people are doing in these very entrepreneurial ways and the creativity around it, but it is a long, hard road to get to the thing you can see in your vision. You can see it and you can sense it.
Yep.
But getting there is a different story.
Totally different.
It's some hard work.
When I went to grad school, I went to Iowa School of Theology here in town. I wanted to quit every day. Every single day I'd come home and say. So my big struggle at that was, I knew I had a skill set for Los Angeles, and that skill set was completely useless in grad school. So I had no confidence, and at its core, I just didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was smart enough to be able to get the degree, and so that was the first hard thing. The second hard thing was leaving a really good church that was pretty big, that was pretty solid, that loved me and I loved them back, and I knew that wasn't enough. And to take that shot, it's just scary, man. When you step out it's just scary. And to this day, after hours, every time I tell people, every Monday night it's like throwing your 8th grade birthday party and wondering who's going to show up. And that feeling that you had back then when you invite all these people and you're like, God, I hope they come. You know, I mean, it's that every week. I mean, every week you have that, and I don't know if that'll ever go away. I mean, there's always this sense of, you know, is this worthwhile? That people finding value in this, and it, you know, we're going on 7 years, so I'm guessing they do, but I don't know if that'll ever leave. There's still that sense of, you know, is this working? Is this going to work?
Yeah.
You know?
And I was just talking to another friend of mine earlier today, and it's the same. I was telling him it's the same when I hear these stories of the people who actually stepped out to do their big.
Yeah.
It's always the same. It's taking a risk, experiencing the fear,
Yep.
and that fear never truly goes away. In fact, if it goes away, then you're not really taking a risk.
I get more nervous. Yeah, the day that it becomes lackadaisical, it's like, it's no big deal. It's like something's off.
Yeah.
You know, that fear can drive you. That can be the fuel to push you to the next thing. That thing that you're like, I don't know, but I'm going to step out in this. And if you don't have that fear, the dream's probably not, the big's probably not big enough at that point. You know.
So speaking of that, what's the next big? What's the next thing to?
Yeah, I mean, when I say we, me and Laura, my wife, that's always the thinking, is what's next, is what is, and we've started to give ourselves a little bit of grace, a little compassion for ourselves. Sometimes it's easier to give compassion for other people than it is yourself. Yeah. And to go, you know, we don't have to have it figured out, but we do have to have our eyes open. And I think most of us kind of walk through life with our eyes closed. I mean, we just get like hyper focused on this thing, and we miss what's around us. And I mean, that's the case with the homeless. I just wrote a piece the other day, and I just said, you know, who are the people that you're walking by every day that you don't know? There's no reason you shouldn't know them. I mean, whether that's the person at the dry cleaner or the coffee house or the homeless guy in the corner, it's like, why are my eyes closed?
Yeah,
to these people,
great
you know?
point.
So I'm trying. We're staying open. That's the plan, and we'll see where it goes. You know, I was just telling you earlier. It's like the universe, God, whatever language we like, has done a really good job up to this point. So when I realize there's a fear, it's kind of unfounded. Like if I look over the track record, things have happened, and I think they'll continue to happen. But too often we get completely whacked out on fear, and it paralyzes us. So hoping that won't happen.
So I want to mention, Jerry has a book out. In fact, it's a new book. When was it released?
October of last year.
October of last year. It's called, I want to make sure y'all can see it, Last Call from Serving Drinks to Serving Jesus. Founder of After Hours Bar Church and Homeless Ministry by Jerry Herships.
See what we did there? The last call. So it's a call, but the drinking. Anyway,
did y'all get that?
I'm sure they got it. They're
last
very
call. Give us just the 30-second elevator pitch.
Yeah. So I did stand up for 26 years and realized that there was something more that I wanted, and left that and went to seminary. And then it's a story of what happens when your dreams don't fall the way you want, and you got to collect all the pieces and start over and sort of find a new normal.
Which is exactly what you did. Started over, and which is kind of what we're talking about with all these 90 videos is finding that thing even when it's hard, and going after it, and keep going after it.
That's right.
So I highly recommend this book. I have read it. Last Call from Serving Drinks to Serving Jesus. I hope in the video that's not backwards. If it is,
I hope not.
That's the title, Last Call.
Yeah, make sure you get that right. I get $1.35 for every one of those.
$1.30. So if
my
we
kids
sell
in college.
100 of those,
well, there we go.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, where can they get this book?
They can get it on Amazon, and they can get it at if they go to www.jerryherships.com, they can get it there, and then get it at Westminster John Knox, which is my publisher. They can get it at their website.
And so if people want to connect with Jerry, what's the best way to connect? Website, social media? He's all over social media.
Absolutely. You can definitely reach out to him on Twitter at Jerry Herships. You can get me there. My email is goddoesn'tsuck@gmail, so that works.
goddoesn'tsuck@gmail.com.
There it is. And Facebook. I'm on Facebook, and most people reach me through there.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks for being with us today.
This was awesome.
I love it.
Thanks. This was really cool.
Thank you all. We'll be rolling out with another story soon.